The story of a people who, for millennia, wandered between hope and despair. Have you ever stopped to think about what the word restoration means? Imagine a place where faith and determination intertwine, where promises made centuries ago are about to be fulfilled. The restoration of Israel is not just a historical event. It is a phenomenon that resonates deeply within each of us. The echoes of ancient prophecies reverberate across the Holy Lands, and the current reality challenges logic. What happened when the doors opened once again? How did a people who faced so many adversities rise from the ashes? And what if I told you that each of us carries a part of this story? Get ready for a journey that goes beyond time and space. Let's explore the narratives that shaped this Renaissance and examine what the signs of the end times reveal to us about the future. Every detail, every prophecy, every testimony intertwines in a rich and complex tapestry. Don't miss the next step of this journey. Together, let's unravel the mysteries surrounding the restoration of Israel. Since I was a child, I have always been fascinated by the idea of how biblical prophecies shape the history and identity of the Jewish people. When I read passages from Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah, I feel like I am witnessing a profound dialogue between the past and the future. These scriptures are not just ancient texts, they carry promises and hopes that resonate in the collective soul of a people. Isaiah's prophecy about the return of the exiles to the Promised Land is a clear example of how faith and hope intertwine with history. For many, this is not just a matter of faith, but an affirmation of identity. Ezekiel also sheds light on the impressive image of the Valley of Dry Bones, where God promises to restore the people of Israel. The vision is powerful, evoking the idea that even amidst desolation, there is always the possibility of rebirth. This metaphor is so significant. It speaks to the resilience and strength that the Jewish people have always possessed. In fact, throughout the centuries, even in the face of persecution and dispersion, the hope of returning to the ancestral land has never ceased to pulse in the hearts of the Jews. The promises of restoration are not mere words. They have become a beacon guiding generations. Jeremiah also stands out by emphasizing the new covenant between God and his people. His message of hope is a declaration that, despite difficulties and suffering, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. This message reverberated through the centuries, especially during times of exile and oppression. For many, this return to the Promised Land is not just a physical return, but also a spiritual reconnection with their roots. This makes the prophecies not only a theological matter, but a narrative that shapes the identity of the Jewish people. What impresses me most is how these prophecies continue to be relevant today. They are not just stories from the past. They speak of a future that many believe is yet to come. The idea that the Jewish people could return and settle in the Promised Land is a theme that resonates in many hearts, especially among Zionists. For them, the prophecies are not just predictions. They are a call to action. This connection between faith and history transforms the biblical passages into a powerful engine for change. Finally, as I reflect on these prophecies, I realize that they have not only shaped the history of Israel, but have also touched the lives of every Jew, wherever they may be. They symbolize the hope, struggle, and determination of a people who, despite adversities, never lost faith in their own restoration. And this, to me, is one of the greatest lessons we can draw from the scriptures. The ability to dream and fight for a better future, even when everything seems lost. The story of the restoration of Israel is a theme that has always intrigued me, especially when I think about how past experiences have shaped the identity of a people. Since the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, the Jews have been dispersed throughout the world, living in diasporas that ranged from welcoming to hostile. This dispersion was not just a series of tragic events, it was the beginning of a journey that, over the centuries, brought the people back to their homeland. What fascinates me most is how this story has been marked by an unyielding desire to return. The Middle Ages brought immense challenges, but also moments of hope. Even amidst persecution and pogroms, the idea of returning to the Promised Land never vanished. The Jewish communities that flourished in Europe and the Middle East kept alive the connection to their heritage, nurturing dreams of a future in which they could return. The strength of this connection is a testament to the resilience of the Jewish people, who, even in times of extreme adversity, never ceased to believe in their promised land. The turn of the 20th century marked a period of revival for Zionism. Figures like Theodor Herzl emerged as visionary leaders who organized Jewish immigration to Palestine. The Balfour Declaration of 1917 was a significant milestone, as it brought the idea of creating a national home for the Jews to the forefront. This represented not only a political change, but also an emotional one, reigniting hope in many hearts yearning for a home. When I read about these events, I feel like I am witnessing the rebirth of a nation. The struggle for independence culminated in 1948, when Israel was finally declared a sovereign state. This moment was a turning point. For many, it was the realization of a dream that had been longed for by generations. However, this dream did not come without challenges. The history of the restoration of Israel is marked by a complexity of feelings and realities, including the impact on the Palestinians and the tensions that arose. This duality is something that is often overlooked in simplistic narratives. The history is not just about the restoration of a people, but also about the consequences of that restoration for others. The history of the restoration of Israel is a testament to the struggle, perseverance, and faith of a people. It is a rich narrative that teaches us about the importance of identity, memory, and hope. Looking back, I realize that this history is not merely a timeline of events, but a tapestry of intertwined lives, shared dreams, and a future that is still being shaped. The journey continues, and each chapter brings new challenges and opportunities. When I think of Zionism, I feel like I am exploring a movement that not only shaped the history of Israel, but also had a significant impact on Jewish identity worldwide. Zionism is not merely a response to the diaspora. It is an affirmation that the Jewish people have the right to have their own nation. This idea resonated deeply, especially at the end of the 19th century, when Jews faced increasing anti-Semitism and discrimination in Europe. The emergence of Zionism was, in many ways, a response to this reality. One of the most emblematic figures of Zionism is Theodor Herzl, who organized the first Zionist Congress in 1897. His vision of a national home for the Jews was a landmark that inspired many to unite around a common goal. It is impressive to think about how this movement managed to mobilize people from different countries and backgrounds around an idea. Herzl was not just dreaming, he was convinced that the restoration of Israel was not only possible, but necessary for the survival of the Jewish people. This conviction is something that still resonates among Zionists today. Zionism also promoted Jewish immigration to Palestine, a movement that began with small groups of pioneers known as Olim. These immigrants faced immense challenges, from adverse weather conditions to a lack of resources. However, they were motivated by a shared dream of rebuilding the land that had been promised to their ancestors. This spirit of determination and resilience is one of the most striking characteristics of Zionism and undoubtedly helped shape modern Israeli identity. Furthermore, Zionism was not limited to a political issue. It also brought cultural and social questions to the forefront. The promotion of the Hebrew language and the revival of Jewish traditions were integral parts of the movement. To me, this is fascinating, as it shows how Zionism is not just about territory, but also about identity and culture. The creation of educational, cultural, and social institutions strengthened the connection of Jews to their heritage, uniting them in a collective effort to revitalize their roots. Finally, the impact of Zionism on the history of Israel is undeniable. It not only led to the founding of the State of Israel, but also triggered a series of debates and discussions about what it means to be Jewish and what it means to be Israeli. The struggle for self-determination and the quest for a safe home have always been accompanied by complexities and challenges. However, Zionism continues to be a central theme in the Jewish narrative, symbolizing the struggle and desire of a people for a better future. It is a story worth telling and remembering. When we talk about the challenges and conflicts that Israel faces today, we cannot ignore the complexity of the situation. The relationship with the Palestinians is one of the most delicate and controversial aspects. In fact, this dynamic is marked by a history of tensions that intensify at different moments. Since the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, territorial disputes and the right of self-determination for Palestinians have been central issues. The struggle for Jerusalem, for example, is a powerful symbol that represents much more than just territory. It is about identity, religion, and history. One of the most significant episodes in this conflict was the 1967 war, which resulted in the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. This occupation has brought to light a series of humanitarian and political issues that are still on the agenda today. Today, we see a complicated scenario where the Palestinian population lives under severe restrictions, generating a cycle of violence, protests, and deep mistrust between communities. Feeling this frustration, this sense of injustice, resonates not only among Palestinians, but also among many Israelis who desire a peaceful solution. In addition to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Israel also faces tensions with its neighbors. Lebanon, for example, is a special case where the presence of Hezbollah remains a constant concern. The idea of a multi-front war is something that haunts Israel's national security. Syria, with its internal instability and the presence of extremist groups, is also a source of tension. All these factors make everyday life uncertain and insecure for both Israelis and Palestinians. Another important aspect to consider is the internal divisions within Israel. Israeli society is not homogeneous. It encompasses a diversity of opinions and ideologies, from the progressive left to the nationalist right. These internal debates often complicate the search for a solution to the conflict. What is a consensus for some may be a red line for others, and this is reflected in government policies and responses to Palestinian demands. Finally, the media plays a crucial role in how these conflicts are perceived globally. Coverage often polarizes opinions further, with narratives that favor one side or the other. This raises ethical questions about the media's responsibility to report the truth without falling into the trap of misinformation. It is a minefield where every word can have profound and lasting implications. The lingering feeling is that while the world watches, the lives of ordinary people continue to be shaped by conflicts that seem never-ending. When we look at Israel's international relations, we see that they are a determining factor in the political configuration of the region. The alliance with the United States, for example, is one of the most significant and controversial. Since the 1960s, this relationship has deepened based on strategic, military, and economic interests. The U.S. provides military and financial support to Israel, which not only ensures the country's security, but also directly influences the dynamics of the conflict with the Palestinians. The European Union, on the other hand, has a somewhat different approach. Although many European countries recognize Israel's right to exist, there is also significant pressure for the country to take steps toward peace with the Palestinians. The two-state policy is a concept widely supported by European leaders, but implementing this ideal is a constant challenge. The EU often finds itself in a difficult position, trying to balance the need to support Israel while also ensuring the rights of the Palestinians. Additionally, Israel's relations with Arab countries have undergone a transformation in recent years. The signing of the Abraham Accords, which normalized relations between Israel and several Arab nations, such as the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, is an example of how regional dynamics are changing. These accords show a growing recognition that cooperation on security and economic issues can prevail over old hostilities. However, this normalization is still viewed with skepticism by many Palestinians and even by some Israelis. On the other hand, the influence of powers like Russia and China cannot be ignored. Both have engaged in the region in ways that challenge Western hegemony, seeking to strengthen their strategic positions. Russia, for example, plays an active role in Syria, while China has invested in infrastructure and trade with Middle Eastern countries. These complex relationships can have significant implications for Israel's security and stability. In an increasingly globalized world, Israel's international relations are not limited to the Middle East. The issue of Israel's restoration and its legitimacy is debated in international forums such as the UN. The recognition of the State of Israel and the rights of the Palestinians continue to be hot topics in global discussions, and the way these matters are addressed can influence lasting peace in the region. Thus, the interconnection between foreign policy and Israel's internal challenges forms a web of interests that must be carefully navigated to avoid further conflicts. When we talk about the restoration of Israel, we cannot overlook the deep connection between the cultural and religious identity of the Jewish people and their land. For many, the return to the Promised Land was not merely a political act, but a return to their roots, a reconnection with the history and spirituality that have shaped the Jewish people over the centuries. It is almost as if every stone, every corner of Jerusalem is imbued with memories that transcend time. The rediscovery of this sacred space has become a fundamental pillar in the construction of modern Israeli identity. One of the most notable aspects of this transformation was the revival of the Hebrew language. Hebrew, which had been a liturgical and cultural language for so many centuries, became the daily spoken language in the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. This linguistic resurrection is not just a matter of communication. It is a symbol of unity and identity. For many Israelis, speaking Hebrew is an act of cultural affirmation. It is as if every word spoken is an echo from the past, a bridge between the generations that experienced the diaspora and those who now inhabit the ancestral land. Religious traditions also play a central role in Israeli society. Religiosity permeates daily life, whether in the celebrations of Jewish history, such as Yom Kippur and Passover, or in daily practices that involve the observance of Shabbat. These elements are not merely rituals, they are the glue that binds Israeli society together and keeps it connected to its heritage. It is interesting to note how, amidst modernity and technological advancement, Israelis still find time and space for spirituality, reflecting a constant search for meaning in a rapidly changing world. Furthermore, the impact of the restoration of Israel on Jewish identity is also reflected in the cultural diversity that makes up Israeli society. With the immigration of Jews from different parts of the world, Israel has become a true cultural mosaic. Each group has brought its own traditions, cuisine, and customs, enriching the social fabric of the country. At the same time, this diversity presents challenges as the integration of so many distinct cultures requires dialogue and mutual understanding. The coexistence of different traditions is a testament to the resilience of the Jewish people, who have always sought to find common ground, even amidst differences. Finally, the restoration of Israel has also brought to the forefront questions about the relationship between religion and state. While many Israelis strongly identify with their religious roots, Others advocate for a more secular and pluralistic society. This tension is palpable in the debate over legislation, the role of religious institutions, and education. The quest for a balance between Jewish identity and coexistence with other cultures and religions is a challenge that continues to be discussed and shaped over time. At its core, this is a struggle for the definition of what it means to be Israeli in a contemporary world where old boundaries are constantly being redrawn. These cultural and religious aspects of Israeli identity are fundamental to understanding what it means to live in Israel today. The restoration is not just a historical event, but a lived experience, a constant reconnection between past and present. Each day, the Israeli people rewrite their narrative, finding new ways to connect with their roots while navigating the complexities of the modern world. It is a fascinating journey, filled with challenges, but also with a rich tapestry of hope, faith, and resilience. And now, as we look at the current reality of Israel, biblical prophecies seem to come to life before our eyes. The restoration of this nation is not just a historical event, but a powerful sign of the times we are living in. Have you ever stopped to consider what this means for us today? How do the promises made millennia ago resonate in our modern society? The words of the prophets echo through generations, and each event, each twist, invites us to reflect. What else does the Bible reveal about the future of Israel? And how do these truths impact your personal life? If you are curious, now is the time to dive even deeper. We must not forget that the story of Israel is the story of God's relationship with humanity. What can we learn from this journey? What lessons can we apply to our daily lives? So, stay tuned, because the next part of this narrative will surprise you. The restoration of Israel is just the beginning. What do you believe will happen in the coming years? Let's discover together.